How do credit cards work? In this episode, I'm going to be covering all the basics you need to know. We're going to have a look at, should you get a credit card? How can a credit card help you? There's a couple of other key facts as well. So let's have a quick recap of what's going to be covered in this episode. Thank you for joining me. This is season 14 of ZulfTalks.com podcast, Working for Yourself. Today we're covering what a credit card is, key components of a credit card, how credit cards can work, interest and fees, that's something to consider because sometimes it can be quite expensive, credit score impact, both good and bad, benefits of a credit card, responsible credit card use, like ideas around how it can be used well, how to choose a credit card, and also create credit building tips, like can it help you? Don't worry about writing notes, everything's available on zulftalks.com. Click show resources and you can download this presentation basically, so it'll help you. So let's start by just saying, what is a credit card? I've got a little fancy gold club black card that can be used as a credit card. So a credit card is basically a place where it's an account and you create it, you apply for it, they give you a credit card and you can go and buy stuff. The money in there is actually not yours. So debit is normally your money, credit is borrowing money. So credit means credit card, you're borrowing money from the bank that you don't own. So if you don't have money in your account this month, you can use a credit card and it lets you buy stuff. Credit card would normally have a limit. So the limit on the credit card determines how much money you can borrow. When you apply for it, it lets you know you can have like a 500 all the way up to high amounts, 10,000, 20,000, depending on your salary and your circumstances. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But credit cards are an essential bit of helping you towards maintaining credit, borrowing money, paying back, understanding deadlines, dates, interest rates. So it's quite good to understand how they work. So the key components of a credit card is, firstly, they're used as a place to buy money, buy products using money that's digital, because everything's credit these days on the cards themselves. So you can use the card to buy an item, and the key component is you buy something on the card, they give you 30 days to pay it back. Well, let me show you this as an example. You can pay it back whenever you want, but the longer you take to pay it back, the more it's going to cost you. So the credit card you use to buy something, once you've bought your item, you can pay it back as soon as you want to pay it back. You can only set up an account on your bank where you pay back the card each month in full, so you don't even have to leave credit on the card for long. I'll talk a little bit later about why that's good in terms of using it to help you towards your credit history and showing borrowing. So your idea is going to be, you use the credit card to buy something. Once you bought something, it's on the credit card, it's separate to your bank account. So if anything was to ever go wrong, the credit card can be closed down, you still got your bank account, and also you pay back to the credit card provider. If you take a long time to pay back, they charge you more money. If you don't pay back in time or pay some of the money back in time, they'll charge you fees. So that's like a layman's basic explanation of it. So that's the key components of a credit card. They can come as a contactless cards, they have a little chip in them, you can pay for multiple items. And that's an overview. So the credit card itself will give you an option like we explained. You can use the card to buy items that you don't have the money for, and then you pay back on the credit card. How this works is the bank says to you, okay, we're going to give you this amount of money you can borrow. Say for example, it's a £1,000 credit limit. How it works is the card has a limit of £1,000. You can buy multiple items up to that value, and then if you go over that value, they will sometimes charge you an over limit fee. So they let you go over so they can charge you, and then they charge you interest. You can pay back the card each month, some of the money, a certain amount depending on the interest rate of the card, and it costs you money to borrow. If you pay it off in full every single month before the interest is added on there, you don't pay anything in addition to what you owe, if that makes sense. So that's the basic overview of how credit cards work. The interest and fees are an interesting area, because interest is, look at it like this. If I borrow you £100, I'll say to you, oh, you can borrow it for a month. But you know what, I'm borrowing you for a month £100, dollars, whatever currency you use. Because I'm borrowing it to you, you'll need to pay me some extra back. You're going to pay me back £120, $120. So I've earned extra $20 for borrowing you that money. And you'll be like, okay, you know what, I don't have the money, I don't mind paying you back more because you're giving me money when I needed it the most. So that's basically what interest is in a basic explanation. The more you borrow, the more interest you pay. On some cards, they calculate it daily. So if you borrowed it, they'll calculate it daily, and then you get charged at the end of the month how much you borrowed if you don't pay off in time. Other cards will be like, if you pay off in full by the end of that month, you just pay off what you borrowed. So if you spent £30 on the card and you pay it off by the due date, each month it has a due date of when you need to pay the money back. You pay back £30. But if you go over the month, they'll charge you interest for that period. So you might end up paying £34 because it took you longer than a month to pay it and it's gone into the next month. So that's interest. Fees are an interesting one, because if you go over your limit, if you go abroad and you spend in a different currency, there's fees there. So you can use the card worldwide. But obviously transaction fees, so if you're changing from like currency to UK currency or America dollars to UK pounds, they'll charge you the rate of the currency, and they might even charge you a little fee on top of that for transferring. But you can only check that on the details when you apply for the account. So there are pros. I have a credit card. I'll tell you why I use a credit card. Credit score impact. So there's impact. This can be bad or good. If you borrow money and don't pay it back, your friends never going to borrow your money again. Same thing with banks. Credit score impact relates to, you borrowed something, did you pay it back on time? Are you regularly paying it back on time? Okay, within a year you can say, can I have a bigger limit increase so you can borrow more in future? Is the credit card the best way to borrow money? It depends what you're buying and how much you're spending on it. It is a form of credit, so you can borrow money, but there are better ways, which I'm going to discuss in later episodes. In this season 14, we're doing Money Matters, part of the Zulf Talks podcast. So credit score impact can be good if you use the card, pay it off in full, don't incur any fees. It just makes history. So then another bank you go to get a mortgage, they can look at it and say, okay, this guy's had a credit card for 2 years, he's been borrowing money, he's been paying back. It shows that he's got a history of making payments regularly. He understands how to handle finances. He's more likely to be okay paying us back, so they're more likely to borrow you money. That's basically the premise, the base layer premise of it. There's more details around that, but I'm just keeping it simple as a starter. And the adverse side of that, the bad side of things, if you borrow money, you don't pay it back, they'll put a marker on your credit report. Everybody else that runs finance companies, money issues, they can see your search report. In a later episode, I'm going to speak about credit reference agencies. That's basically the office that holds all that information, and how you can get a free credit report of yourself and see what score you are, so you can grade how good you are for borrowing money, basically. So that's the credit score impacts sides of things. And we talked a little bit there about the benefits of credit cards, because if you're using a credit card and you're paying it and handling the money well, as time grows, if you're getting, normally people that have had credit cards longer and had a bank account and a savings account and a credit card and a mobile phone contract and finance for cars or buying stuff, and you got a lot of history, it gives you more presence on the credit reference agency, so whoever's borrowing your money in future can look at that and say, okay, this guy's got a good borrowing, he's got a big borrowing, he's able to borrow, I don't know, £50,000 in total across all the different channels he's got: car finance, car loan, credit card, current account, overdraft, those kind of things. And they'll be like, he's handling that well, so we're more comfortable borrowing money. That's basically the benefits of credit cards. And that is a nice little overview of the credit card situation. Now, this is where it gets interesting. What is responsible credit card use? So how can you use it well? This is down to your mentality and what you think is well to be used on credit cards. So a credit card, you can go and buy something on there. If it's got £1,000, £2,000 limit, and go nuts and spend all of that money. But if you don't have that money to pay it back at the end of the month, normally the credit card is, you have a month to pay it back without incurring any charges. If you pay it within the due date, they call it. But if you don't, then you basically get salary. You get paid, all that money has to go to the credit card, and then you don't have money to spend in that month. So you're kind of a bit stuffed, aren't you? But that means you need to be responsible in your own way and understand, okay, I've got a credit limit. How can I make this work for me? Let me give you a personal experience of what I did. So originally when I worked at NatWest, I used to have a bank account. I used to have savings account. I didn't like credit cards that much. I was like, I've got the money. Why am I going to buy a credit card and spend it on the credit card? But then as I was in NatWest and I was selling credit cards to customers and explaining to them, you know what, you've got a bank account. Are you regularly using that bank account? Have you thought about having another another card which is separate from your bank account that you can use. So I kind of sold it to myself because it made sense. So how I did that was, if you look at this example, I think I bought something online and had a dispute, like they didn't send it to me, and I lost some money out. And there's some extra protection you get on credit cards for certain amounts of purchases, section 75 I think from memory, and you can actually claim back things that haven't been delivered, or things that are like there's been disputes, for example. So there's extra protection of credit cards. So then that made me think, you know what, I've got another way of doing this. So anything I buy online, I buy on my credit card. So that way those details, the card number, expiry date, all that stuff, it's like out there on the credit card payment sites. And if anything goes awry, it's just a credit card. It's not my bank account. So it's keeping it separate. So your bank account still got your money in. And what I do is I set up a direct debit on the bank account, pays the credit card off each month. What that means is I don't incur any fees. I've already got the money. I'm only spending what I've got. If I don't have it in my bank account, I won't use my credit card, which is a way of using it as a responsible credit card use. So hopefully that gives you an idea of another way you can do it. How do you choose a credit card? So I chose a credit card for number one, customer service. I wanted it, if I call them, they answer me and I can speak to someone. So that was my number one criteria. I didn't look at interest rates because I don't leave money on there. I didn't look at any offers because I didn't really want anything on there. And the credit card that I have got, it does give me a benefit of every year, whatever you spend on the credit card, they give you a percentage of that in vouchers you can spend in the store. Like you can go to a shop and buy shopping. So that's an extra perk. I don't really need it, but it's there, so it comes to me. So the way to choose a card is, if you regularly spend at a certain store, I think these days most stores have credit cards. Like you can go to Asda, they have a credit card. Walmart is known as, Tesco Bank has one, NatWest, all the big places have credit cards. And if you use that credit card, they basically give you benefits. So if you're going to spend anyway, and you're going to spend on your bank account card, why not use a credit card? Get the extra points and build a bit of credit history, because that helps you, because you've got an extra card which you're looking after. So it's hard to choose, but find something that will give you benefit, something you already use regularly, and see if you can get a credit card by that company, and see if it helps you and if it's cheap enough. So that's something to consider. So the credit building tips are even small things. If you go to the shop, if you get coffee every time, instead of buying on your bank card, buy it on a credit card. And even if it's like in a month, you end up spending like $20 on coffee for the whole week. You've got 20 quid there and your bank account pays it off. So it doesn't have to be big purchases. It can be small purchases. It's just showing that you're using the credit card to earn a bit of credit history, because you're borrowing on something that isn't, like, not really borrowing, because you're paying it off in full each month from your bank account. But the tip would be, make sure you pay off your balance in full. That way you won't get any charges. Pay it in time, setting up a direct debit from your bank account so you don't forget and it automatically pays it. It's a good tip. And another tip would be, get a credit card that gives you some type of reward. Some give you like extra benefits, like you can get free coffee on certain days, you can get free vouchers like I talked about. So that's some tips for credit building. And using the card as another source. So I'm hoping that gives you an idea, gets your brain thinking about credit cards and how that helps you. Again, everything I talked about today is available on my zulftalks.com podcast, and you can actually click the show resources button and you can see all of that. So in summary, let me just recap what we talked about. So the key credit card benefits are, what is it, why do you use it, what's the interest rates on it, credit score impact, benefits of a credit card, be responsible with the credit card, and how to choose a credit card that gives you something back, and a little bit of tips we gave you there for building your credit history as well. In the next episode, I will be covering tips to help you save towards your first big purchase. So that episode is going to be very interesting, where I'll cover how you can do that and find a good way to do that. So make sure to check that out, and I'll see you in that next episode. It would be really good if you can leave a review wherever you're listening to this. The show resources are available at zulftalks.com. You can also sign up to the mailing list there, which will allow you to get information to help you on your journey working for yourself.